The week ahead, nobody's going to tell you that they know what's going to happen. And if they do, they're wrong or they're lying. Actually, they could be right because that's chance, but they're lying in that they actually know. Because, I think the reason, what I was expecting when we had this huge drop was some sort of move back up that was, consistent and had showed some sort of strength. And instead, what we have is we had a few days of balance 2 weeks ago and last week balance again. And so that doesn't really tell us much of anything. Or does it? Because I'm seeing some clues that we might want to drift higher. I think the reason that we haven't shot back up is because there's just a lot of uncertainty in the market and participants aren't confident about what's going to happen. And I listened to Jim Dalton's The Week Ahead this morning, and he said something that was absolutely true and rang true to my ears, which is right now there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines who are waiting for a signal that they should put their money to work, and they just haven't seen it yet. And totally agree. And but I think that all it's going to take is one little push, one way or the other, and that's going to start to happen. Um, so let me talk about the things that I'm seeing here. So we had the balance here in SPY for 2 weeks ago. Last week, balance again. But you'll notice that we did dip down on Friday. And what did we touch? Hourly oversold. So, it's not a true daily higher low because we had a daily lower low, lower high, higher low here, higher high, and then a lower low, right? So that sort of implies, maybe that's not a true up signal. Um, but I think the way to judge it is not on SPY specifically, but to look at the other things that are going to drive SPY. And so one thing that I did here is you'll notice that I put this labeled anchored VWAP on the low of, here, I put it right on the low of this day, the 13th at 10:45 in the morning, my time. That's when it bottomed out here. That was when SPY bottomed. So I'm calling that the SPY tariff bottom. And I just want to click through a few symbols and make note of what they did when SPY was bottoming and what they've done since. So QQQ is the first one, bottomed on the same day. And actually, let me just copy this label over onto here just so we can see it there too. Yeah. So you can see it bottomed here, right? And since then, we have not gone lower from that. We've stayed up, we've oscillated around the anchored VWAP, but we have not gone below that point, that low. If anything, we set a daily higher low and then we tried to set a higher high, but we're unable to, and then have tested the higher low again and bounced. Okay. Look at MAGS, the MAG 7. This has been essentially completely flat sideways, kind of like QQQ. This did not, it did set a lower low on here, which is the 18th. So, and that's something that I've noticed too, is the MAG 7 generally have shown a little bit more weakness as the days have gone on since SPY set the lows. And I'm going to go through a couple of those so you can see what I'm talking about. So Meta has, like, here's the low that it set back on the 10th. On the day that SPY bottomed, that's here. It did bottom at that time of day, but then it's gone lower since then, so showing more weakness, right? And I think of all the Mag 7, this one has been the one that, to my mind, been the most noticeably weak through this whole move, because it's been so noticeably strong compared to all the others in the year prior. So, it's worth noting that it's just showing that additional weakness. And then Amazon, I feel like Amazon and Meta have sort of been going hand in hand, skipping down the street hand in hand. And it did go lower. It's not been quite as weak as Meta, you can see here. So here was the SPY low on this day. It had bottomed a few days prior and then went lower and then came right back up. Was not able to close lower than that first low that it had set. Google definitely went much lower post SPY bottom and then is trying to eke its way back up here, but is really just in balance around the 4-hour EMA 12 and the 5-day SMA. Apple's really notable here because bottomed on the same day that SPY did, right over here, bottomed after SPY did, right? So here's, if you zoom in, SPY bottomed right here at 10:45 candle, and Apple went lower, and then that was Apple's bottom down there. And then you'll see since then, this red line here is hourly oversold. It was not able to get anywhere near it. And then in pre-market on Friday, it had a flush down, got into what could be hourly oversold conditions. But then because it shot right back up, the hourly oversold reading here shot down as that one shot up. And so in my mind, this is a daily higher low being set. And I had actually played Apple bearish here for a win, looking for a daily lower high, and got that win. But as of this being set here, this to me now we're searching for a daily higher high at this point. So that's probably going to come this week. I'm pretty bullish Apple going into the week. NVIDIA, this is a really interesting one because it bottomed way before SPY did and then was bouncing when SPY was still bottoming. You can see that here. So on the day that SPY was bottoming, NVIDIA was going sideways. And on the day prior when SPY was going down, NVIDIA was going up. Same with the day before that. So, I sort of give NVIDIA a bit of grace here because it's been going sideways while everything else has been going sideways, but it's already one leg up ahead of everything else, which actually, technically it's the more bullish name, but it's just in this tightening consolidation range and it's in a weekly downtrend. So I don't really know, I don't feel super bullish NVIDIA right now. I think if the bulls wanted to get behind this name and behind semis in general right now, they would have been pushing this up already. And then we wouldn't have had this reticence in the market to just rally to highs. And instead we're going sideways. I put the blame on semis personally. But whatever. I think it's a tightening range now. That's undeniable. So we got this high, low here, lower high there, and we're tightening up within it. So that's some volatility is going to happen in the coming week. And I don't know what's going to happen I don't even have a guess for what's going to happen with NVIDIA. Tesla is the last one I want to talk about. And this one is, in my mind, the most interesting. Again, it bottomed before SPY did. So on the day that SPY bottomed, it had already rallied for 2 days and then was setting a higher low. And since then, it's been stuck in this range. But if you look at it on the daily, if I zoom this right in, so here was our low here. We got a lower high, and now we got a higher low, and then we're pushing to break that high. And you can see again and again here, and on Friday, we're holding at 250. 250 is this resistance level that's holding it down. So to my mind, that is a spot where if Tesla is able to get above 250 and hold above 250, that's pretty bullish because it's been trying to do that for a while. And whatever's been holding it down will basically be relieving that pressure, and then there's a chance we could get a bit of a spring effect. Now, the other thing to make note of is that, say what you will about Tesla, the company, or the man behind the company. I know there's a lot of people who are anti that company because of the man. And I think that it's overdone. I'm not saying personally my opinion about it. I just think that from a stock market technical analysis perspective, I think Charting Man Dan said this, and I totally agree. It feels like they overshot the downside because they're so upset with him. And to me, that means that we've probably got a rubber band effect that could happen here that could shoot this thing right up. And I didn't recognize it before this weekend review video because, just seeing the charts in this way, noting where SPY set the bottom, noting the ones that are setting higher lows versus the ones that are going lower. This one is notably, I think that it's a sleeping giant that's going to surprise some people in the coming week. So we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise me and go down. I don't know. But that's sort of what I'm thinking. So I don't really see, unless there's some sort of bearish news, what's going to push this thing down. But I don't think it would take much. All it would take is a certain man to say a certain thing, and then this whole thing could just topple again. I really do believe that. Or a certain man could say a certain thing, and it could just shoot up. And so I think from a technical perspective, I see a couple of names here that are holding up, setting higher lows. And if they can break these levels of resistance like Tesla has here, then we do have the chance of them lighting the spark that could begin a bit of a rally. And if that gets lit, there's going to be FOMO and people are going to chase it up. Now, that doesn't mean we're going back to highs. It just means that we would be back searching for a lower high, in my opinion. So keep that in mind. Keep your wits about you and keep your stops tight. But yeah, that's my read on the market. I sort of feel like there's some hints that things could be pushing back up in the short term, but they could just as easily go the other way. But these are the names that I'm going to be watching just to see what happens, and they're sort of going to be my meter stick for the market. So I honestly think my simple statement for the coming week is, you know, if if individual stocks like Tesla and Apple begin to push, and especially if Nvidia could become involved to the upside, then I think we have the potential to start scouting weekly lower highs, and so that that might sound bearish, but it's a bullish intent on the short term trade potentials. So that's what I'm going to be watching for in the coming week. However, I got to mention, the coming week I'm only trading on Monday morning because I'm going away to Japan for 2 weeks. So I'm going to be checking in online and just like watching the stocks as I'm going to bed each night. But I'm not going to be actively trading during the trading day because I'll be on the other side of the planet. So I probably won't be putting out one of these videos next weekend. Um, we'll see what happens while I'm away. But I wish you all a great coming week, and I hope you have great success in your trading.